What if everything you thought you knew about America's most famous reality TV family was a carefully constructed facade? What if, behind the perfectly coordinated outfits, the sprawling family dinners, and the trademark smiles, there existed a secret so devastating, so physically and emotionally taxing, that it threatened to unravel the entire dynasty from the inside out? This isn't just another tabloid headline. This is a story of silent suffering, of a private battle waged away from the flashing cameras, and of a foundation of faith being shaken to its very core. The name Duggar has been synonymous with mega families, conservative values, and, in recent years, shocking scandal. But tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on a different kind of crisis. A health crisis. One that has reportedly left Jana Duggar, the eldest daughter who became the world's most famous big sister, hospitalized and very, very sick. And at her bedside, a man named Stephen Wissmann, her new husband, is said to be utterly devastated, facing a nightmare he never saw coming in the early days of their marriage. This is a breaking situation, and the details are murky, guarded by a family that has mastered the art of privacy amidst public spectacle. Strap in, because we are about to dive deep into the known facts, the painful history, the swirling questions, and the profound implications of what Duggar hospitalized truly means for this embattled clan. To understand the gravity of this moment, you have to understand Jana. In the universe of 19 Kids and Counting and its successor, Counting On, Jana Marie Duggar occupied a unique and quietly powerful role. While the world was fascinated by the Bates and the Duggars, Jana was the steady hand, the anchor. She wasn't the first to marry, not the first to have children of her own. She was, in many ways, the perpetual helper, the sister mom who helped raise her countless younger siblings, managing households, changing diapers, and providing a sense of order long after the film crews had left. Fans dubbed her Cinderella Jana, often speculating about when her prince would come, when she would get her own fairy tale ending. That ending seemed to arrive with Stephen Wissmann, a man from a similarly large, conservative family. Their courtship was private, their wedding a celebrated event, a new chapter for the woman who had waited so long. It was supposed to be a beginning filled with hope, new adventures, and maybe, eventually, a family of her own. But fate, it seems, had a crueler plot twist in store. The first whispers of trouble emerged not from an official announcement, but from the deafening silence of social media. In the Duggar world, especially for a newlywed, regular updates, photos, and cheerful verses are the currency of connection. But Jana's accounts went quiet. Stephen showed no trace of his new bride. Then came the muted reports from family insiders and fringe contacts. Jana was unwell. It wasn't a simple flu. It was serious. Then, the most alarming word of all, hospitalized. The family, through unofficial channels, has maintained a wall of silence. There is no press release, no tearful YouTube update from Jim, Bob, and Michelle. Just a vacuum of information, and in that vacuum, anxiety and speculation grow like weeds. Let's talk about Stephen Wissmann. Imagine stepping into a family that is a global phenomenon. Imagine finally marrying the woman you love, only to have that new marriage immediately tested by a medical emergency of unknown proportions. Sources close to the situation describe Stephen as devastated, heartbroken, and praying without ceasing. This is a man from a strong, faith-based background, now facing a trial that no amount of courtship rules could have prepared him for. He is, by all accounts, a steadfast presence at the hospital, but the emotional toll must be unimaginable. This isn't how the story was supposed to go. This is the brutal interruption of a dream, a harsh lesson that not even the most carefully planned life is immune to sudden, terrifying tragedy. His devastation is a silent, powerful testament to the severity of Jana's condition. And what of that condition? This is where the clickbait headlines stop and the frustrating reality of medical privacy begins. We do not know. The family has not disclosed any diagnosis. Is it a sudden, acute illness? A severe infection? A complication from a previously unknown condition? Or could it be related to something chronic that Jana has managed privately for years, away from the prying eyes of the world? The Duggar hospitalized rumor mill is churning with theories, but without facts, they are just that, theories. This lack of information forces us to look at context, at the family's past, to see if there are any clues hidden in their history. The Duggars are no strangers to health crises. We remember Michelle's devastating miscarriage of baby Jubilee, a tragedy shared with the world in a raw and emotional episode. We saw Jessa's seawalled hemorrhage after the birth of her son, a frightening postpartum emergency. We watched as Josie Brooklyn Duggar entered the world months premature, fighting for her life in the NICU, her tiny form a symbol of both fragility and survival. The family has publicly walked through these medical valleys, often framing them through their lens of faith, tests from God, opportunities to trust. But this feels different. The silence is different. Jana has always been the private one, the keeper of secrets, the one who didn't seek the spotlight. It is chillingly consistent that her greatest trial would be shrouded in this same privacy, even as the world clamors for answers. Furthermore, the family is still reeling from the seismic shocks of the Josh Duggar scandals. The fallout from his actions, his trial, and his imprisonment cast a long, dark shadow over the entire Duggar name. The family's image was shattered, their belief system questioned on a global stage. In many ways, the younger siblings, Jana included, have been working to rebuild a sense of normalcy, to carve out lives defined by their own choices, not by their brother's crimes. A major health emergency for Jana, a beloved and sympathetic figure, feels like a second wave of catastrophe hitting a family already on unstable ground. It begs the question, how much can one family endure? Let's analyze the potential ramifications, layer by layer. First, the practical. Jana was a cornerstone of the family's logistical machinery. Even as a married woman living away from the main compound, her organizational skills, her calm demeanor, and her experience were undoubtedly still a resource for her younger sisters, particularly the ones still at home. Her incapacitation leaves a void. Who steps in? How does the household, which has always relied on a complex system of buddy teams and sister moms, adjust to the loss of its most experienced captain? Then there's the financial aspect. Major medical bills in America can be catastrophic. While the Duggars have had television income, their financial picture post-cancellation is not public. A prolonged hospitalization and treatment could represent a significant burden. Second, the emotional and spiritual dimension. The Duggar family's entire worldview is built on a foundation of trust in God's plan. Phrases like "whatever is best" and "trusting in the Lord" are their lexicon. A severe, unexplained illness in a beloved daughter and sister is the ultimate test of that faith. Where is God in the suffering of one of his most faithful servants? How does the family reconcile their beliefs with this new reality? The prayers are undoubtedly fervent, but so must be the moments of doubt, anger, and fear that they would never show the public. This internal, spiritual struggle may be the most profound battle of all. Third, the public relations tightrope. The Duggars are in an impossible position. Disclose details, and they invite a media frenzy, endless speculation about prognosis, and a total loss of privacy for Jana in her most vulnerable state. Remain silent, and they fuel the rumor mill, anger fans who feel invested in Jana's life, and risk accusations of hiding something nefarious. It's a lose-lose scenario. Their strategy of silence suggests a prioritization of Jana's privacy above all else, but it also creates a vacuum that others are all too happy to fill with gossip. And what of the future? Let's project forward, based on the few fragments we have. Scenario 1. Recovery. Jana is released from the hospital, and after a period of convalescence, returns to her new life with Stephen. The family issues a vague statement about a serious, but treatable condition, thanking people for prayers. Life moves on, but with a new, unspoken understanding of fragility. Jana's story becomes one of testimony, a trial overcome through faith and family. Scenario 2. A long road. This is not a quick fix. This involves ongoing treatment, perhaps specialist care, lifestyle changes, and an uncertain prognosis. This scenario transforms Stephen from a newlywed into a potential caregiver, alters all their plans for starting a family or ministry, and keeps the entire Duggar clan in a state of suspended animation, waiting for news after every doctor's appointment. The public would see only glimpses, a rare photo where Jana might look tired, continued social media silence, feeding concern indefinitely. Scenario 3. The unthinkable. We must acknowledge it, even as we pray it is not the case. What if the illness is terminal? What if this hospitalization is the beginning of a final, painful journey? The impact would be unimaginable. It would break the family in ways the scandals never could. It would challenge the faith of an entire community. It would make Jana a tragic icon, forever remembered as the sister who gave everything and then was taken too soon. Stephen would become a young widower, his life story forever bifurcated into before and after. But here's the crucial point. We are not at an ending. We are in the terrifying, agonizing middle. The Duggar hospitalized headline is not a conclusion. It is the opening line of a new, uncharted, and deeply painful chapter in the saga of this American family. The cameras are off. The scripts are thrown away. This is raw, unfiltered life, with all its pain and uncertainty. Jana Duggar is no longer a reality TV character in this moment. She is a patient. Jana Wissmann is not a suitor from a courtship story. He is a terrified husband. And the family is not a brand. They are a group of people huddled in a waiting room, clinging to each other and to their prayers, waiting for a dawn they are not sure will come. So, where does that leave us, the audience? The outsiders looking in? It leaves us with a choice. We can choose to be part of the noise, speculating, demanding, consuming every unverified morsel of information. Or we can choose to respect the profound human tragedy unfolding behind the headlines. We can acknowledge that some stories are not ours to dissect in real time. That Duggar hospitalized is not just gossip fodder. It is a real woman fighting for her health, a real man fighting despair, and a real family facing a new kind of fracture. The full truth of what is happening in that hospital room may not be known for weeks, months, or even years. The story will continue to unfold in whispers, in absences, in the strained faces seen in the background of other family photos. It will be a subplot that threatens to become the main plot, a shadow over every future Duggar wedding, birth, and holiday gathering. The saga of the Duggars has always been a spectacle. But this chapter, the chapter of Jana's illness, is a grim reminder that behind the spectacle are human beings, frighteningly fragile, navigating a darkness that no television special can ever truly illuminate. The clickbait headline is just the door. We've opened it. And inside, there are only questions, prayers, and a chilling silence that not even a family of 19 can fill. The wait for answers continues. The story is far from over. Now, let's consider the broader network. The Duggars are not an island. They are part of a vast ecosystem of conservative, large family communities, often interconnected through marriage, church affiliations, and mutual support. The Wissmann family, Stephen's own large and musically talented clan, is now directly in the line of fire of this crisis. How are they supporting Stephen? What conversations are happening between the elders of these two families? There is an entire support structure, often invisible to the public, that is now being activated. Prayer chains spanning multiple states have likely been initiated. Meals are being organized. But even within this tight-knit world, the lack of a clear diagnosis or prognosis creates a unique strain. How do you pray specifically when you don't know what you're praying for, beyond a general plea for healing? This uncertainty resonates through the entire community, creating a ripple effect of anxiety that extends far beyond the immediate Duggar circle. There's also the unspoken element of precedent. In communities that emphasize natural living and sometimes harbor skepticism toward certain aspects of modern medicine, a severe health crisis can prompt difficult conversations. Are the best medical specialists being consulted? Is there internal debate about treatment paths? The Duggars have utilized modern medicine in the past, as with Josie's premature birth, but they also embrace alternative and natural remedies. The path they choose for Jana, whenever it becomes known, will be scrutinized and could influence decisions within their wider community for years to come. This isn't just a private medical matter, it's a potential case study for an entire subculture. Shifting focus back to the public sphere, we must examine the role of the remaining Duggar siblings who maintain a social media presence. Their posts have taken on a new, almost forensic significance. A photo of a family gathering that notably lacks Jana and Stephen. A Bible verse about suffering posted by Jana or Jinger. A vague request for prayers from Jason or James. Every activity is now analyzed for clues. Is the family trying to project normalcy? Or are these posts a desperate attempt to maintain some semblance of their public identity while their private world is in turmoil? The siblings are in a bind. To acknowledge Jana's illness directly is to break the family's code of silence and potentially invite a barrage of questions they are not authorized to answer. To ignore it completely seems callous to their followers. So they walk a middle line, speaking in generalities, which only amplifies the sense of mystery and concern among their audience. Furthermore, the business implications cannot be ignored. Several Duggar siblings have leveraged their fame into small businesses, home renovations, real estate, boutique clothing, social media influencing. Jana herself was involved in gardening, landscaping, and home design. Her illness brings all associated activities to a halt. For the brothers, particularly those who run businesses requiring physical labor or constant client interaction, the emotional distraction of a sister in critical condition must impact their focus and productivity. The family brand, already tarnished, now carries an additional layer of somber association. Sponsorships and partnerships, which often rely on an image of joyful, wholesome family life, become even more complicated to navigate when the core family is experiencing a very public, very private tragedy. Let's also ponder the psychological impact on the youngest Duggar children, those still in the Tontatown home. For children like Jordan, Jennifer, and Tyler, who were largely raised by their older sister moms, Jana was a primary maternal figure. Her sudden, severe illness and absence is a profound loss for them, a different kind of loss than her marriage and move away. They are old enough to understand that something is terribly wrong, but likely not privy to the adult details. Their world, which has already been rocked by the removal of their older brother Josh and the cancellation of their family show, is once again destabilized. Who provides their comfort? How do Jim, Bob, and Michelle explain this while managing their own grief and fear? The nurturing system within the home, already strained, faces its most severe test. We must also consider the legal and estate planning aspects that such a crisis forces to the forefront. Jana is a married woman now. Stephen Wissmann is her next of kin. Medical decisions, should Jana be unable to make them herself, legally fall to him, not to her parents. This is a monumental shift for a family where parental authority has been absolute. While there is no indication of conflict, this legal reality marks a definitive passing of the baton and could create complex dynamics at the hospital. Furthermore, if Jana has any assets or is part of any family business ventures, questions of power of attorney and management arise. A health crisis of this magnitude forces a sudden and adult confrontation with mortality and logistics that most newlyweds don't face for decades. The narrative surrounding Jana has also irrevocably shifted. The public storyline of patient waiting Jana, who finally got her happy ending, has been brutally overwritten. Her story is no longer a romantic parable, it is a medical mystery, a testament to resilience, or a tragedy in the making. This reshuffles the public's perception of the entire Duggar narrative. It becomes harder to view them through the simplistic lens of reality TV tropes. The health crisis injects a dose of harsh, uncontrollable reality that no editing suite can smooth over. It forces even the most cynical observer to recognize the authentic human drama beneath the curated image. In the absence of facts, people turn to patterns. Some observers are looking back at the family's dietary habits, their genetic pool, their lifestyle. Could this be related to an autoimmune condition? A genetic disorder that might affect other siblings? The lack of information leads to this kind of broad, often irresponsible speculation, but it is a natural human response to a vacuum. It also places an additional burden on the family, who may be aware of these public speculations and find them adding insult to injury. The waiting is the hardest part. For Stephen, waiting by a hospital bed. For the Duggar parents, waiting for phone calls from doctors. For the siblings, waiting for any scrap of good news. And for the public, waiting for any official word. This story is defined by its limbo. There is no arc, no climax, no resolution, only the relentless, ticking clock of uncertainty. Each passing day without news feels heavier. Each social media post from another family member that doesn't mention Jana feels more pointed. The story is alive, not in its events, but in its agonizing pause. This ongoing saga also touches on the ethics of fandom. When does a fan's concern become an intrusion? The line is being tested daily. Comments on other Duggar posts pleading for updates on Jana, while well-intentioned, create pressure. The desire for information battles against the right to privacy during a medical crisis. This situation is a live case study in how modern audiences, accustomed to constant access via reality TV and social media, handle being shut out of a chapter of a story they feel invested in. It's a clash between the parasocial relationship fostered by television and the brutal boundaries of real-life suffering. As we speak, the situation is fluid. The information we have is from yesterday or the day before. By the time this reaches you, the status may have changed. Jana's condition could have improved. It could have worsened. A statement may have been released, or the silence may have deepened. This narrative exists in the perpetual present tense of a crisis. We are documenting a moment that is already receding into the past, while the future remains a frightening, formless void for the people involved. Therefore, the only honest way to conclude is not with a conclusion, but with an acknowledgement of the unknown. The story of Jana Duggar's hospitalization is a tapestry being woven with threads of fear, faith, silence, and speculation. The final pattern is not yet visible. It may be a story of miraculous recovery that strengthens the family's testimony. It may be a story of long-term adaptation to a new normal. It may be a story of profound, heartbreaking loss. Right now, it is all of these potential stories existing simultaneously in the realm of possibility. The family holds their breath. Stephen keeps his vigil. The world watches, waits, and wonders. And in a hospital room somewhere, a private battle continues, its outcome unknown, its course uncharted, its resolution a distant point on a horizon obscured by storm clouds. The silence, as they say, is deafening. But in the case of the Duggar family crisis, that silence isn't empty. It's a dense, heavy thing, filled with the static of 1,000 unanswered questions. We left off with the agonizing uncertainty surrounding Jana Duggar's health, a story suspended in midair. But when a family of this magnitude goes quiet, the world doesn't stop turning. In fact, the vacuum created by their silence becomes its own ecosystem, buzzing with activity just beyond the frame. To understand what happens next, we must widen our lens. We must look beyond the hospital room and examine the shockwaves radiating outward, affecting businesses, relationships, and the very fabric of the Duggar identity. This is the aftermath of the initial blast. This is where the real, messy, complicated long-term consequences begin to take shape. First, consider the digital crime scene. Social media profiles are now being dissected by amateur sleuths, with a fervor usually reserved for true crime documentaries. It's not just Jana's silent account under the microscope. Every sibling, every in-law, every known family friend is being scrutinized. Like from Stephen on an old photo of Jana is analyzed as a sign of him reminiscing. A sister posting a recipe for chicken soup is seen as a subtle hint about nurturing a sick loved one. A brother sharing a verse about walking through the valley confirms the worst fears. This digital reading of tea leaves is a modern phenomenon, a way for the public to feel connected and investigative when official channels are closed. But it creates a parallel narrative, one built on inference and speculation, that often runs far ahead of the truth. It also places an immense, invisible pressure on the family. They know every action, every post, every omission is being cataloged and interpreted. The choice to say nothing becomes a statement in itself. The choice to post about mundane daily life becomes an act of defiance or denial. There is no neutral ground. This brings us to the economic front. The Duggar brand, once a lucrative machine of television deals and book sales, has been fractured for years. What remains is a decentralized network of individual sibling ventures. And nothing tests a small, personality-driven business like a profound family crisis. Take the example of a brother like Jason Duggar, known for his renovation work. His business relies on his availability, his focus, and his physical presence on job sites. Can he confidently quote a 2-week project timeline when his mind is consumed with worry for his sister? Will clients sense his distraction? For sisters like Jessa or Jana Forsyth, whose YouTube channels and Instagram sponsorships are significant income streams, the content calculus is now fraught. Followers demand authenticity, but how authentic can they be when a core part of their life is too painful and private to discuss? A cheerful, "Hey guys, welcome back to my channel" intro feels discordant. Yet, stopping content creation means stopping income, which families with young children depend on. They are trapped between the need for normalcy and the reality of grief, between being a public figure and a private sister. The in-laws are in a uniquely difficult position. They married into a media circus, but they didn't necessarily sign up for a front-row seat to a medical tragedy of this scale. Spouses like Austin Forsyth, Ben Seawald, or Derek Dillard have their own families, their own dynamics. Their primary loyalty is to their wives and children. How do they support their spouses through the fear for Jana while also shielding their own immediate families from the overwhelming stress and public scrutiny? For Jana Wissmann, this distinction doesn't exist. He is now at the absolute epicenter. But for the other in-laws, they must navigate a complex web of empathy, support, and necessary boundary setting. They are insiders who are also, in some ways, outsiders, watching the family they married into grapple with a trauma that predates them, yet now irrevocably includes them. Let's talk about the children, the third generation of Duggars. The little ones, like Ivy Seawald, Evelyn Forsyth, or Bella Dillard, are likely picking up on the tense whispers, the extra-long hugs, the unexplained tears of the adults around them. For the older grandchildren, like Mackenzie or Michael, who have lived through the previous family scandals, this is another layer of unexplained adult worry. How are the parents explaining Aunt Jana's absence? "She's not feeling well" only goes so far when the illness stretches from days into weeks. This crisis is subtly shaping their childhoods, teaching them lessons about fear and fragility long before they might otherwise have learned them. Furthermore, it impacts the famous buddy system. With Jana, a key organizer, out of commission, who is checking on the buddy teams for the youngest girls still at home. Is the system a cornerstone of Duggar life, showing its strain under pressure? The theological dimension deepens every day. In evangelical circles like the Duggars, suffering is never meaningless. It is a refining fire, a test of faith, a trial that produces perseverance. But theology from the pulpit can feel abstract when applied to the pale, still form of a sister in a hospital bed. The family's public persona has always been one of unwavering trust. But in private, the questions must be swirling. The why questions. Why Jana? Why now, on the threshold of her new life? If this is a test, what is the lesson? Is it for Jana, for Stephen, for the entire family, or for the watching world? The pressure to frame this experience positively, to already think of the testimony it will create, might conflict with the raw, human need to simply grieve and be afraid. The struggle to reconcile deep faith with deep suffering is the most intimate battle of all, and it's one each member of the family is fighting alone, even as they pray together. Rumors, as they do, begin to crystallize into accepted narratives in the absence of facts. On certain online forums, theories have moved from general speculation to specific, unfounded diagnoses. These imagined scenarios, repeated enough, take on a life of their own. Well-meaning fans, armed with these rumors, might approach other family members in public with specific advice or condolences based on false information, causing additional pain and forcing the family to confront lies directly. The act of silencing rumor now requires energy they may not have energy better spent at a hospital bedside or in prayer. The physical logistics of support are a massive undertaking. The hospital is likely not in their hometown. This means travel, lodging, and coordination for family members wanting to visit. Who stays at the main house to manage the younger children? Who coordinates the meal train for Jim, Bob, and Michelle, or for Stephen's family? Who handles the communication tree to update the vast extended family and church community? This logistical web, often managed by the women of the family, is now operating under emergency conditions, with its most capable administrator, Jana, unavailable. It's a silent, exhausting effort of love that goes completely unseen by the public, but is critical to holding the family structure together. The public's appetite for the story creates a market. This is the uncomfortable truth. Insider sources, however distant or dubious, become valuable to certain media outlets. A second cousin twice removed, a former church acquaintance, a neighbor who once waved, their comments are sought and sometimes published. These snippets, often vague and devoid of real knowledge, serve only to prolong the news cycle and add another layer of noise. The family finds themselves battling not just the illness, but also the ghostly, distorted versions of their own story being told by periphery players. Their own narrative is being written for them, sentence by fragmented sentence, in the gossip columns of the internet. Within the family structure, old roles are being forcibly renegotiated. With Jana incapacitated, which sister steps into the void as the primary emotional and logistical support for their parents? Is it Jessa, often seen as a strong, take-charge figure? Is it Joanna, who shares a close bond with Jana? Or does the responsibility diffuse among all the older sister? This shift, even if temporary, can alter long-standing family dynamics. It can create unspoken tensions or unexpected alliances. The first daughter role is suddenly vacant, and nature, like family systems, abhors a vacuum. For Jim, Bob, and Michelle, this is a parental nightmare of a different order. They have buried a child, endured a son's very public downfall, but this is a slow-motion agony. It is the helplessness of watching a child suffer with no clear endpoint. Their identity as parents, built on raising a quiver full of arrows, is confronted by the reality that one of their arrows is grievously wounded, and they cannot fix it. Their faith is their refuge, but their human hearts must be breaking. Moreover, they are the de facto CEOs of the family brand. The decision of when, how, or if to speak publicly rests ultimately with them. The weight of that decision, balancing Jana's privacy, the public's concern, and the potential media storm, is a crushing burden on top of their parental fear. Stephen Wissmann's family, the Wissmanns, are now protagonists in this story too. Their son is living every parent's nightmare for a newlywed child. They are supporting him, but they are also grieving the derailment of his, and their, joyful season. Their family gatherings, once filled with music and celebration, are now overshadowed. They are learning the difficult etiquette of supporting a son-in-law in a crisis with a family that is notoriously private. How involved should they be? How often should they visit? They are navigating uncharted waters, their own faith tested alongside the Duggars. The passage of time itself becomes a character in the story. A week in the hospital is different from a month. A month suggests complexities, specialists, a longer road. Each milestone 1 week, 2 weeks, that passes without a positive update or a return home darkens the mood. Hope, initially fervent and expectant, begins to morph into a quieter, more stubborn kind of hope, tinged with dread. The family's emotional energy shifts from acute crisis mode to a grinding endurance test. Fatigue sets in: physical fatigue from the commute to the hospital, emotional fatigue from the constant undercurrent of worry, spiritual fatigue from praying the same desperate prayers without a visible answer. And what of Jana herself, in the eye of this hurricane? Her experience is the one we can least access, and yet it is the entire point. Is she conscious? Is she in pain? Is she aware of the global chatter surrounding her name? Is her spirit fighting, or is it weary? Her personal faith, always portrayed as quiet and deep, is now being exercised in the most profound way possible. For a woman who's spent her life serving others, the utter dependence and vulnerability of being a patient must be a jarring, humbling role reversal. Her thoughts, her fears, her prayers in that room are the true, hidden heart of this saga. The story has also inadvertently shifted the public's perception of Stephen. He is no longer just Jana's husband. He is the devoted husband keeping vigil. His every action, should he ever choose to speak, will be viewed through this lens. His future, whether it involves caring for a convalescing wife or facing unimaginable loss, will forever be marked by this trial. Their marriage, just beginning, is being forged in the hottest and cruelest of fires. What emerges will be a bond unlike any other in the family, tempered by a shared trauma the others can sympathize with but not fully inhabit. As the situation extends, the get well soon cards and flowers stop. The initial wave of prayer requests slows. For the wider community, life moves on. But for the Duggars and Wissmanns, life is stuck in the waiting room. This is the lonelier phase of a crisis, when it is no longer breaking news, but an ongoing, painful reality. The support network, however well-intentioned, must return to its own lives, leaving the immediate family to bear the daily weight alone. This is when the isolation of their particular fame becomes most acute. They cannot escape to anonymous normalcy. Their pain is a public topic, even in its silence. The narrative is no longer about a single headline, Duggar hospitalized. It has splintered into 100 smaller, ongoing stories. The business owner trying to focus. The sister deciding what to post online. The mother explaining sickness to a toddler. The brother driving to the hospital for the 50th time. The father pleading with God. The husband holding a hand. It is a mosaic of quiet desperation and steadfast love, piece by piece, day by day. The cliffhanger is not about a sudden turn, it's about endurance. How long can this be endured? What is the breaking point? Where is the glimmer of light? And so, we wait with them. Not in the same way, not with the same stakes, but we watch the digital shadows for a sign. The story continues not with a bang, but with the relentless, quiet ticking of the